everybody, it's Cindy Matalucci, your host of The Pulse and Live with Cindy. Thank you for tuning in. We love to see you on Fridays for this 30 minutes. We love to bring you great content, inspirational stories, events that are happening, everything in our wonderful community. And remember, if you guys want to be on the show and you want to spotlight your business, hit us up on social media at The Pulse SD or the website, thepulsesd.com, and find out how to be featured on our show, because we would love to bring some buzz around your brand. So I have to start thanking my sponsor today. We love Windus Fernandez Brincord from Trilogy Financial. For all your financial needs, Windus and her team have got you covered. She's my financial planner. We love her. So shout out to Windus. Thank you so much for sponsoring the show. Okay, guys, so we're going to start the show talking a little bit about social media, one of my favorite things, the thorn in a lot of your sides, right? So I'm part of this content marketing group in LinkedIn, and they do surveys. And I wanted to bring this up because I think it will shock you guys. We all know that video content is king, right? And there are so many platforms out there now for business owners and content creators. So which platform do you think is winning the battle?
TikTok.
TikTok, woohoo. Okay, so listen to this, you guys. The question on this survey was, which app is your go-to for video content? So out of 600 votes, it's still going for another few days. Listen to these numbers. TikTok is at 32%, Instagram is at 23%, Snapchat's at 1%. I think Snapchat is dying. YouTube is at 44%, right? So I've been an advocate of TikTok and people thought I was like crazy, but I really think it's got momentum and I think it's gonna win. So Bridget, what do you think? What platform do you like?
Well, I mean, I think it depends on exactly what the content is. YouTube, I think, has just been around for so long that I think that's, what people's go-to is. I think TikTok is great for kind of more those short, exciting, entertaining things. I think a lot of people go to YouTube to learn. There's a ton of how-tos on there and all sorts of stuff. So I think it just depends on what you're looking for. But those are some pretty interesting
I'm
stats.
telling you, TikTok, don't take it out, guys. My team loves TikTok. We love figuring out what videos we're going to do. It's like so much fun. So we love it. Okay, and I want to credit the person that did this survey in the group. It was done by Dale Griffith, co-owner of On The Go Agency, marketing strategist and author. So if you're not following him, he's really great. Okay, so staying on the social media front, did you guys notice all the changes on Instagram? By the way?
Yes.
Driving me nuts, I'm just going to say. So there's a petition out there on change.org to make Instagram again. Have you guys heard about this? So I want to dive into this a little bit because one of the big things with this petition, one of the major complaints with Instagram is that, like Meta always does, it's pivoted to video and away from photos, right? So people are really upset because people that are chefs, cooking, they're not looking at photos anymore, right? So another demand is the return of the chronological timelines, which have been determined by algorithms of the last few years. So according to Later, a study that it conducted on 81 million Instagram posts found that the engagement rate of feed posts, excluding video content like Reels and IGTV, when that was around, has decreased by 44% since 2019. So if you're not doing like a video, they're saying that your content is, it's decreasing or they're not showing it, right? So here's the complaints. The changes, the full screen version of the feed rolled out to some users and a lot of people don't like it. One change they made is that all videos under 10 minutes are now automatically reels, which I don't like because when you produce content, I know the younger generation kind of likes this, but sometimes you want to showcase a video and you don't want it to be a reel. Like for me, reel should be quicker and spontaneous and just like more fun, right? So that's something that people are upset about. And then the change that's been most evident on Instagram, where more and more of your main feed is now being dominated by posts, primarily short form video clips from profiles that you don't even follow. So it's so hard now because you're like, wait, I'm following people, where's their stuff? So that's kind of what the biggest beef is. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I have. And it's funny because I didn't realize that was an official change and I thought, that's weird. I don't remember following these people. Wonder what's going on with that. So funny that you bring that up.
Yeah, so it's very similar to TikTok because TikTok does that too. But the app's head, Adam Mosseri, and we're running a funny picture of him, He created a video to address this, especially because Kylie Jenner signed the petition and commented on making Instagram like it was originally. And remember, when she did that on Snapchat, their what do you call it, dropped. Their stock went like plummeted. Oh. So he really had to address it, but everybody's been upset about it. So he's basically pushing for video and thinks that this is where it needs to shift to. He says that you can snooze the recommendations in your feed, though. I haven't tried that yet, but when you're getting all these random ones, apparently you can hit snooze. So he said it's not perfect. He said that they're going to see what's going on and making it the full screen. That's something that he's not 100% set on. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens.
Should be interesting.
Right, but I'm going to finish up with this survey. When we get the final results, I'm going to come back and tell you guys, because everyone's like, TikTok, TikTok. But I'm telling you, don't count TikTok out, because we love it. All right, guys, so let's jump into our show. I'm so excited to have our real estate expert, Bridget Potterton from Bridge Coast team and Keller Williams Metro back on the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me back.
We love having you. So for those of you guys that don't know, she's got 19 years experience in residential real estate serving the San Diego area. She holds a master's degree in business entrepreneurship, and she's just such a resource. So every time you come on the show, we learn so much.
Oh, thank you.
So we're so excited. Okay, so today we're going to start with the market, right? The ever-changing market. We're going to do like the weekly update. So it's slowed down a little bit.
Absolutely. It has slowed down, and there's two main reasons. Number one, in January of this year, the inventory was about 1,100, which is really, really bad. That's so low. That means 1,100 homes and condos in San Diego. That's it. Keep in mind, a normal balanced market is about 8,000 to 10,000. So it was rough out there for buyers. And now our inventory has almost quadrupled. So by the end of this month, I predict we'll probably be at about 4,400 homes and condos for sale. So that's a good increase, but it's still very, very low.
Yeah, I think we have your graph for the July sold numbers. That's crazy.
So these numbers are really unusual, especially for July. So what you're looking at right now is what has sold in July for the past couple of years. So we started in 2018, and you can see basically you expect somewhere between 3,000 and about 3,500 homes to sell in July in San Diego. That's homes and condos. And last month, we just got the stats, and I was floored. We sold less than 1,900 homes and condos.
Wow.
And so I think there's a lot of factors. Number one, I'm thinking a lot of people might be on vacation because, we've all been stuck at home for so long. Interest rates, of course, that's a big deal right now. The interest rates have gone back down, but at that point they had almost doubled from what they were in January. So that's a huge increase in your mortgage payment. So I think some buyers were maybe taking a bit of a pause. And, I think that's just part of the challenge. And also buyers are starting to say, hey, there's some options out there. I can kind of take a breather, and there's more houses to look at. Before, it used to be you walk in the door, we're being shoved out by the next buyers, and we're not even at the car yet, and I have to ask, okay, well, do you want to write an offer on this one or not, before they've even had time to think. Now everybody can take a breath and just kind of think it through for a minute and make sure that that's the right thing to do, so they don't have buyer's remorse.
Well, and I just want to mention, over the past week, mortgage rates have declined fast. So as of Tuesday, the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate sits at like 5.5%. down from June, right, when mortgage was at like 6.28%. So the falling mortgage rates have sidelined home buyers a little bit. It's immediate relief, right? So if a borrower in June took out a $500,000 mortgage at a 6.28% rate, they'd pay $3,088 monthly in principal and interest. But at 5.05, they would only pay $26.99.
It's a big difference. It is a big difference. And, I think the mortgage companies sometimes, we don't always know what's going to happen when the Fed meets. They're the ones who are sort of moving the rates around, or the hikes. They're the ones who choose whether or not to do the rate hike or not. And the good news is the rates actually went down, And what was interesting is I had a couple properties that were for sale, had been kind of sitting on the market for a few weeks. Good properties, but just sort of sitting, which a few weeks is not long. But we've been spoiled for so long that anything past 3 days felt like it was on the market for too long. But those properties, they all got offers last week.
Wow, and I think you were showing something like over $1 million too.
I can't help but wonder if maybe that's, because the rates, we had a little dip in the rates, and people felt a little bit better of, okay, well, I should probably grab these rates right now, and
it pushed them over the ledge to make that final choice.
But I mean, people are getting pretty high rates. I just sold a home in this is a multi-unit property, so an investment property, and investors pay higher interest rates than a primary occupant. And he got, I believe his rate was 7%, which is pretty high. Investors' rates tend to be a bit higher, sometimes only 0.5%, sometimes more. Just it depends on a lot of different factors. But yeah, he got 7%, and he told me his mortgage was going to be $9,000, and the property was probably only going to cash flow in its current condition maybe $7,000. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. But he felt so confident in the real estate market that he's in it for the long game. So he moved forward and bought the property.
That's crazy. I had no idea. Okay, so I want to jump into something that our viewers ask us all the time. So this was a question for you when you were coming back on. Buying and selling as an investment, right? Because, I mean, is it a good idea when the interest rate rises?
That's a good question. So I am going to informally quote the CEO of Keller Williams, Gary Keller, and he always says, it's always a good time to buy the right property.
Oh.
And that sort of has stuck out to me, because I think the challenge is that a lot of buyers and sellers, they try to time the market. Okay, I want to buy at the absolute lowest low, or I'm going to sell at the absolute highest high. But unfortunately, unless you have a crystal ball, you don't really know when it is. And we usually don't know until 3 or 4 months later whether that was the height or if it was just a blip or what. So it's nearly impossible to time the market. But as an investor, I think there's a couple things that you need to think about. Number one is, what is your financial position, right? Do you have the down payment? Because investors typically have to put a higher down payment unless you get kind of a little more unique type of loan. So you might be putting down 20 or 25%. And does it cash flow? To me, that's a big deal.
Making money on it, right?
Absolutely. So my very first property that I ever bought was a property I moved into, and it's my first rental. So, but it cash flows, and every property that I've ever bought has cash flowed. That was a big deal to me, and that is harder and harder to do in California in general. And that's why you see some investors going out of state right now, because you can do cash flow, and that's also why some people don't love us Californians coming into their state, because we can put large down payments down from the sale of a property here, and you go somewhere else and you can either pay cash or you can put 50% down. And so I always tell my clients when they leave California, do not tell any of your neighbors that you're from California for at least a year. Make sure they have a chance to like you first before they start judging you.
That's a good tip. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. Well, and I think that the properties, like rental properties, they're long-term investments, right? You can't think about it as like, oh, it's a flip thing, right?
Well, there's a lot of flip investors out there.
Okay.
I think that is probably slowing down because they're probably having a harder time. You know, the properties aren't turning, but they're having an easier time acquiring the properties, but flipping them. I am not a flip investor. My experience has been long-term. I've actually never sold a property I've owned.
Okay.
But there are, there are people who buy something. I had a client earlier this year. He bought a condo in Mission Hills area for, I think it was about $320,000 last year. And I just sold his property in April for $460,000. And this was a 1-bedroom condo.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Yeah. And actually an investor had bought it, and I thought, wow, that's never going to cash flow. But that's only one way of making money. The other big way, of course, in California especially, is appreciation.
Okay.
So, and I mean, you've been a homeowner for a long time too, so you've seen my first property I actually bought in a down market. And so the day after I bought it, it was worth less than what I paid for it. which sounds kind of crazy. You would say, okay, Bridget, you must have bought at a bad time. But I didn't really care because the mortgage was affordable, and I knew I was going to keep it forever. That was my plan. So as long as you're investing in a longer term plan, the risks are much, much less.
Okay, and the other thing is there's tax benefits, right? There are benefits.
Yes, there are tax benefits. You have write-offs to being a homeowner. There are, now of course I can't give tax advice because I'm not a CPA or a tax attorney, but check with your CPA. There's different ways of writing off, like if you're a business owner, part of your property, your office. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it, and of course the money that you spend on your investments. I have a spreadsheet that I keep track of on our investment properties of what I spend, so I can give it to my CPA at the end of the year, because that does help us when it's tax time to pay Uncle Sam.
I love that. Mm-hmm. So the other thing is rent is increasing here in San Diego. We talked about that before. So like it seems like you would be getting a lot. Is it harder to rent because it's? What would you say?
I would say that the rental market is actually crazier than the resale market at this point, because renters are having a hard time. We actually just bought another investment property here in San Diego in Chula Vista in February, and we didn't even have to advertise it. We had several people who saw that we were getting work done on the property after we closed, and they asked, can we rent it? Can we rent it? Can we rent it? And so, and I feel bad because I think that the real thing, I mean, this is exciting as an investor, I think, but we also have to remember the flip side, which is we are going to price a lot of our locals out of the market, because before it was, okay, the prices are so high to buy a house. Okay, so they're going to be stuck renting. But what happens when their landlord kicks them out because they're going to remodel, or they can't afford the rent there, and they go shopping for a new apartment or a new house, and they're $1,000 or $2,000 more. I mean, can you imagine?
No.
So it is going to be a real problem. I think affordable housing. You see it on the news. We see our local government talking about it, but it is a real problem.
Well, so what can people do, I guess would be the question. They can improve the property, right?
Absolutely. And right now the hot topic is adding on ADUs, or converting your garage to a unit, and you could do a studio apartment that you could rent out. Oh my gosh, what some people are paying for a studio is unbelievable. It also depends on the area that you're in. Some people are building. One of my clients, she owned a home in University Heights, and she built multi-units in the back.
Oh wow!
And it is expensive. Construction costs are expensive, but that's a great way if you want to keep your property, but you want somebody else to pay your mortgage for you. I mean, that's a great way of doing it.
My neighbor does that. I know. We got to look into that. And then you can also refinance your mortgage, right?
Absolutely. So there's options out there for refinancing. The refinance market has dried up a bit because the rates went up so much. So unless you're in an adjustable, it probably doesn't make sense to refinance right now. I mean, there's some unique cases where that might make sense. But what some people are doing is they're buying or they're refinancing into adjustable mortgages, which is essentially you do like a 10-year or a 5-year, they call it ARMS, which is an adjustable rate mortgage. And what that means is that you are fixed for a period of time. So it's fixed for 10 years or 7 years. But if you think you're only going to own it for 10 years or 5 years, then the risk is much less, and you're paying a lot less per month.
Wow, and so you're seeing that happening now.
A little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. I think most people are still trying to go into the 30-year fixed in general. I would recommend if you do want to do adjustable, do your homework. That's for savvy buyers. We had a lot of people doing Mickey Mouse loans back in the early 2000s, and that's how we got to
where we were with it. Yeah,
into the crash. I don't see that happening. I really don't, because
people were just giving so much money. They were just saying your house is worth so much. And
oh my gosh! Well,
the loans were
crazy. People were getting loans way more than they could afford. I remember my first job in real estate, I got my credit checked. I'd never even had my credit checked. I was 23. I had maybe a $500 credit card limit. And the lender said, "Oh, Bridget, you should buy a house. You can afford $800,000. I think I was making maybe $30,000 at the time.
What?
I didn't know much about real estate at that time, but I knew enough to know that doesn't add up. And because of those stated income loans, that's how the market got to where it did. We don't do a lot of those anymore. Lenders really kind of went complete opposite, and they've been a lot more conservative with purchase loans. So I don't see that happening, but that's the cautionary tale of the past.
I remember those days. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I want to bring up a cool real estate fact. An interesting article that I saw that you posted on LinkedIn, right? And this was on the states with real estate taking the longest to sell.
Yes.
And California was not on there.
Nope. No, we're still moving along pretty well. But the surprising one was Hawaii. I'm going to have to ask my friends in Hawaii what's going on over there, but I think that was ranked number 2. And, everybody's been wanting to get second homes and vacation rentals, and, in Hawaii, they're not making any more land. So I was surprised that one, I don't know, Cindy, maybe we need to take a trip out there.
Maybe we need to
see.
go, right? Invest in Hawaii. And then what were some other, like New York was on there, I think.
New York was on there.
That's interesting.
Yeah. New York is such a different, because when you think New York, I know everybody thinks New York City, Manhattan, but they've got a lot of rural areas out around there too. And New York got hit pretty hard real estate wise during the early parts of the pandemic. So, but yeah, that was on there. North Dakota, which I don't know anybody from North Dakota, so I can't speak to their market, but no, they were actually the West Coast, we were all relieved of being on that list. So we're still moving along. I heard recently that Idaho has slowed down pretty well. I mean, I think everywhere has slowed down. It's just some areas a lot more extreme than others.
Well, we love it. We love this update, keeping us in the know. So before we go today, I love this about you. You've created a business with a community focus. So you're really involved in a lot of local organizations, and you're really passionate about it. And you love to give back. So I just wanted to mention, maybe you could talk about some of the organizations that you're part of and what you're sort of doing.
Absolutely. Well, I think the pandemic sort of changed us all as people, and one way or another, we saw the good and the bad in people. And for me, I realized that there is a lot of opportunity out there. I think sometimes we just say, oh, I'm just one person. What kind of a difference can I make? But just by doing a couple of small things, I started to see some really big changes around me. And I just found some great organizations. The first one is I sit on the advisory board for the Salvation Army Adult Rehabilitation Center in San Diego, and also the Western Division. So I travel. I'm supposed to be going to Hawaii next week but unfortunately I'm not going.
Oh no!
I know.
I was like, wow, that's not so bad.
And I also help a wonderful organization here in San Diego that you know well, Blissful Seeds, which is a fabulous nonprofit where they make great resin dishes and soaps and bath bombs, and they only hire autistic people, which I love. They're here in Poway.
We love Rita.
Yeah.
You brought her on the show.
Yes, and all my clients, they know her because they get her gifts. I give her soaps out as gifts. I've got her dishes in my house and everything. It's just such a great organization. Another one that you know well is Fatu's organization, which is Be Like You, which is focused on anti-bullying, basically, which is such
huge,
especially
right now.
After the pandemic, and kids are just still trying to figure out their bearings and everything. I think that's so important. Matter of fact, she has a golf tournament.
I know, we want to shout out to her. It's actually tomorrow, and you're a big sponsor, which is really exciting. So we love Fatu. She's been on the show. And what's nice, too, is we're all part of the same networking group, and we really do work together and help each other in the group. And so Fatu and Rita and you and I, share that in common, which we love.
Absolutely.
But you do such a good job. I mean, I guess what I would ask you is, do you have a tip for people out there? Like, what can they do to get more community focused?
I think that the biggest thing is don't get overwhelmed by it. Just start small. Like, another great organization I'm involved with is called Just in Time for Foster Youth. So my office, we had a social event a few weeks ago. So I just asked everybody to bring in their hotel soaps that were unused and toiletries and things like that. And we got a couple of bags full of things. So I'll be donating those next week to just in time for foster youth. So they help transition foster youth, so 18 to 22, out of the foster system and help them get into their own apartments, and help them sometimes co-sign on cars, and just kind of give them a little leg up that they all really need. There's so many great organizations, big and small, out there. I mean, the Salvation Army, obviously, that's the biggest one I'm involved in. They do
There's
much
so
for
many.
the community.
I know. There's so many events and things that they do.
Yes, I mean, a lot of my clients have brought up, the Salvation Army helped me when there was my apartment burned down and I needed rent money, or things like that. So there's so many great local organizations out there that just figure out a way, and it doesn't always have to cost money.
Right.
No. I mean, these hygiene products, that's just, I just grab them.
Everybody's got stuff laying around.
Yeah.
I take all of my hotel soaps. I probably shouldn't say that on camera. If I'm at your hotel, I'll probably be leaving with your soaps. But I mean, seriously, everybody has those kind of things at home.
Yeah, it doesn't, and the soaps, I mean, I'm always buying things for my clients anyway. Why not buy it from a nonprofit? So it doesn't have to be these big things, like, every month we're gonna donate $50,000. It doesn't need to be that. It can just be, you just start small and work your way up, and then you can build a big business focused on the community, and you'll get a lot of supporters that will help you, and they'll want to be a part of it too.
We love that. And so what I do too is at each year I kind of figure out what groups I want to be part of and which organizations, and then we donate our time to a few groups, in the year to give back too. So I just think it's like you said, you have to just put it out there, pick a few, and start small.
And just ask people. You probably all know somebody involved in a nonprofit that can tell you how they need help.
Well, I love it. It's always so good to have you on here. Thank you so much for all of your resources today. And you guys, if you have a question for Bridget, let us know. We can get it answered. We'll get all that information to you. And then they can come to you at comehometosanddiego.com, right, to find your information.
Absolutely.
And then you will do a consultation with them if they have questions.
Absolutely.
We love it. Well, thank you so much. So you guys will have everything on the website. She'll be back again with another market update. So stay tuned for that. We love having her. And then you guys just be safe out there. Drink lots of water because it's going to be very humid. So if you're golfing at Fetou's golf tournament or you're out and about this weekend, be careful, stay safe. And then we'll see you next time when we put our finger on the pulse of San Diego. Thank you guys.